Some students from the University of Alberta asked me to tell them the story of my life with totalitarian politics. They knew that I was born in a state, the Romanian state, which was dominated by fascism. And they knew also that very soon fascism was disappeared from Romania and communism, Stalinism came instead. So I got a lot of questions about the parallel between fascism and communism. So let's start by that. How was it in everyday life? When I was a little child, as I told you, I was living in a fascist Romania. That means that I could see all over the town, I was living in Bucharest, all kind of posters with Jews with long noses, and Jews with long nails, and blood dripping from the nails of the Jew. These posters were meant to deepen the fright and the hate for Jews. We were told, the children were told that Jews were killing Christian children in order to use the blood of these children in special Jewish rituals. This was one side of fascism, which was very strong, of course, because when you are 3 and 4 and 5 and you see this kind of posters, you get afraid, in spite of the fact that we didn't have anti-Semitic attitudes in our family. But this was a kind of background of everyday life. The other part of a very special fascist influence on childhood, this was a cult of war, heroes, warriors, Siegfried, Nibelungen, all kind of old medieval legends were present in the books for children and in other publications. It was a part of this pomp that fascism liked to wear. They liked everything which could strengthen the admiration for military life and military achievements. So I remember that as a child I could look in a magazine called Signal, which was filled with war photographs, some of them terrible. And of course, they were also a part of everyday life. And then we had the Romanian fascism, the Iron Guard. They were marching under the windows of our childhood. And they were making exercises very close to our house in a special sporting area. All those things were also a part of the fascist ritual. In fact, the ritual was present very much in everyday life. So, when fascism was gone, because during the war, Romania changed political alliance in 1944, in August. And then all at once, Romania became an allied to Soviet Union and the other allies. And then the Soviet army came very soon into the country. And this army did not behave in any way as an allied. They still were regarding Romanians as enemies because Romania has been allied with fascist Germany. So they came, and they had no beauty in their military presence. They were like trees, I thought. I was still a child. I could not understand then, when I looked at the Russian soldiers, that they have been marching throughout the whole of Russia, and they were now marching throughout Europe. On their feet, marching, not transported by train or cars. They were just marching. And they had been in terrible winters fighting, and then in terrible summers under heat. Their clothes were damaged, their faces were damaged. So I did not understand that I saw a terrible army of terribly suffering people. I was afraid. And with them came communism very soon. It was installed in our country. And it was different from fascism. Yes, we had posters, but they had another character. And we had rituals, but they had also another character. They were boring. Boring like a toothache which never ends. The presence of constant pressure, constant oppression, fear without pause, made everyday life very ugly. There was no beauty nowhere, and we had no pause when we could relax. So in this atmosphere, I grew up, and I went through education and university studies of film and theater, and I became a journalist. And I could make the experience of some variations in the pressure of communist presence. Sometimes we had a little more light in our life, and sometimes the oppression came back, and it was very hard. But these variations in oppression never became real changes. So the students of Alberta University asked me to tell them about the worst experiences of communism. I could tell you the story of two experiences. One was from the 50s. I was a student then. It must have been 55, 56. It was a very hard winter, and as usual we lacked a lot of things. It was cold indoors, and we had bad clothes and bad shoes. We were freezing, and sometimes we were also hungry. But everyday life was going on. And then, in the middle of this hard winter, in the mornings, in this capital of Romania, Bucharest, people could discover bodies lying on the street. Men, usually men, who had been killed on the street. They were all wearing same grey clothes. We knew that they were prisoners, political prisoners. The officialities used to tell people that these were thieves who had been discovered in the middle of a criminal action, and that they have been shot just because of that. But we knew all that these people, all of them wearing same grey clothes, came from the prisons, and that they were political prisoners, and that they were lying on the streets during a whole day in order to create terror, which they did. I remember one of these poor men lying very close to our house there, by my parents' house, in the frozen blood, and this total immobility of death. That was one of the worst experiences of communism. Another very deep experience was the big and bitter discovery of the big communist lie when the Soviet army went into Prague in 1968. All at once we saw that all the big slogans, all the very dramatical expressions of propaganda, everything has been only a lie. And that, in fact, we were living in a militarized society in which the weapons had to say everything. That was a terrible, terrible experience, because we had been believing in Dubček. We had been hoping that the Prague Spring will change our life too. So these are my answers to the questions about everyday life and the direct experience of fascism and communism. I could add that the terror was both like and unlike in these two systems. Fascism was, in a very strange way, more direct. They said Jews are not human beings, and they oppressed the Jews. But in communism, you never knew who was the enemy, because everyone, even very important people in the leading positions of the Communist Party, could be all at once presented as enemies of the people and agents of imperialism. And in order to spread this strange atmosphere of undefined danger, the communists liked very much show trials. And as you know from history, there have been a lot of them in the history of East European and Soviet time. And this is for this time. Thank you.